Current and breaking news always being reported by your newscasters from Budapest, Hungary on Channel 15. The Cold War began in 1947, its participants being the United States of America and the Soviet Union. The U.S. had just become a superpower during this time. The Cold War was called a Cold War due to the fact that no actual physical fighting occurred. There was an arms race between the USA and the USSR. They were militarizing at a rapid rate. There was a space race as well, which was essentially just who can go farther out into space first. The Cold War was kind of like a playground for fighting. During the Cold War, the Soviets were trying to spread communism, and the U.S. was afraid of that. The U.S. created the domino theory, where they believed if one country fell to communism, the neighboring countries would fall as well. Another aspect of the Cold War was the Korean War. It lasted 3 years and technically never ended because there was never a treaty between North and South Korea. However, there is a line of armistice known as the 38th parallel. Then came the Vietnam War, a war that lasted much, much longer. The United States technically lost but never announced it as such. The Patriots in the 1700s in America might have introduced guerrilla warfare, but the Vietnamese perfected it. Malaria was also a huge issue that led to many American deaths during the war. Meanwhile, people were protesting the Vietnam War in America, thus the age of what is modernly known as hippies were born. After the Star Wars movies came out, the U.S. believed a Death Star could work and started building a satellite that would take down Soviet aircrafts. They called it Project Star Wars. Another important point of the Soviet ignition was the major issue between German government and Berlin. The Soviet Union set up a wall in the middle of Berlin separating the democratic west side and the communist east side. They blocked off all roads leading in and out of Berlin, so getting food and merchandise to the west became difficult. So, the U.S. sent food supplies via airplane. The Berlin Wall did not come down until the early 1990s, shredding the Iron Curtain. The Cold War officially ended in 1991 when a Union Treaty was proposed, which gave more autonomy to the Soviets while keeping them under central control. Although the Cold War was considered a war, no physical warfare took place. The United States and Soviet Union remained as stalemates for 45 years, damaging nothing but their economies, which were later repaired. The footage you're about to view has been taken straight from the Cold War period. Enjoy. Hello? It's October 23rd, 1956, and I've just received news of a Hungarian student uprising. Over 1,000 students marched from Budapest to the Parliament building to protest their communist leaders. This all began because of a bad harvest, fuel shortages, and a cold, wet fall. The AVO opened fire on the unarmed crowd, killing many of the students who were protesting. One student in particular, the protesters wrapped in a flag and held his body above the crowd. This was a symbol for the upcoming Hungarian Revolution.
Oh, this is such a long march. Remind me why we did this.
Those darn commies.
So, as you all may know, revolts have recently been spreading across Hungary, which have been led by organized militias. These militias fought AVOs and Soviet troops. Radicals and workers had fought for control of the Hungarian Working People's Party. Just recently, the new government has disbanded the AVO, which is the secret police, and we have withdrawn from the Warsaw Pact and reestablished free elections. So clearly, these revolutions that have sprung up have proven to be very effective. Oh my god. This just in. Organized militias are currently fighting against Soviet troops. They're showing a lot of resistance against the communist government. We're going to cut straight to Reporter Eve live from the scene.
Thank you, Reporter Sari, for transitioning me over. As you can see, we're on the scene now, and the fight's getting pretty intense out there.
So, how's the war going?
It's been pretty bad. I really don't know what I'm doing at this point. I've been asked to stand guard for a while now, and I've been out, and I don't exactly know what's going on. Oh God, get down! Good.
The effects of the Cold War and Hungarian Revolution of 1956 are very important points when looking back on the Cold War. The Russian Revolution, quite to the contrary of popular belief, didn't actually help any other countries fight the Soviets. It only made the Soviets have a stronger resolve to keep a tight grasp on the protesters and separatists. They executed many of them in Hungary. Then later on, they built the Berlin Wall, which made the Soviets stronger and communism easier to spread. Repression in Hungary ran high. Thousands of Hungarian citizens were captured, arrested, and imprisoned. Some were even executed. Over 200,000 fled to Austria, making the country significantly smaller and weaker. Russia stayed in control of the Iron Curtain due to the fact no one could get rid of the Soviet troops until Czechoslovakia later in 1968. Due to the poor conditions induced by communism, many communists left the Communist Party, and Western leaders became more and more determined to contain communism. This later led to the Vietnam War and increased support of the domino theory. Although the Cold War never hurt anyone, it made the countries surrounding it aware that nuclear weapons were not a joke. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, World War III was almost ignited. This impacted our countries today because now many of the leaders know that nuclear weapons are not a joke and not to be trifled with. The Cold War made many countries more aware of their actions and avoided nuclear weapons for the better of the countries.